Hey everybody, this is Bryan Hogue. Thank you for joining me for another week of Chiller Chat. And tonight's guest is, I'm so happy to have him on. It's Donald F. Glut, and he is a writer, a longtime writer in the comic books and the horror magazines and live action TV, as well as numerous novels. Some of his cartoons he's worked on is Johnny Quest, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, The Transformers, G.I. Joe, Masters of the Universe, Tarzan, and the Flintstones live action TV shows. Some of them are Shazam and Land of the Lost. And it's just my absolute pleasure to get him on the phone here. And again, I want to remind you guys, this is live, it's streaming live. So if you have any questions for Donald, chat away. If you have any comments, please feel free to share.
Hello.
Don, this is Bryan. You're on Chiller Chat.
Yeah, how you doing?
Great. How are you doing tonight? How are things in Burbank, California? How's the weather over there?
It was the most gorgeous day of the year so far. Just beautiful. Yeah.
I cannot.
Sun, nice temperature. It was great.
I can't say the same over here in Northwest Pennsylvania, but I'm happy for you.
I'm happy for my tortoise too, because I don't have to bring her in for the night. It's not too cold out there. She can spend the whole night outside.
Oh, really? You have a tortoise? Okay. Well, I suppose she would be enjoying the weather then.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being a guest here on Chiller Chat tonight, and I'm just so impressed with your long time writing career and what you've done, and of course now you're directing movies, and we'll touch on as much of that as we possibly can. I wanted to ask you, first of all, what inspired you to do what you're doing right now? I know that you love horror and science fiction and all that, so what was your first inspiration that you can remember?
My first inspiration actually was I was sitting there in high school. We had a day called College Day. I was in my senior year of high school, and in all the local colleges, I was living in Chicago then, so all the ones from Chicago, Indiana, Wisconsin mostly, came to sort of pitch their colleges. And, we're best for engineering, we're best for, law. Well, I was sitting there, and I realized I didn't want to do any of those things. And I never really liked, I had a couple of summer jobs and things when I was a teenager, but I just didn't want to have a regular job where the rest of my life, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, I would doing the same thing, something I didn't enjoy doing, probably working for somebody I didn't like or respect too much. And I had been involved in a lot of, I guess you would call them fanish things back then. I was making amateur movies, I was putting out a fanzine, I was writing stories, I was playing music, all these things, I was drawing pictures, all these things I like to do, and those are the things I decided to pursue as professions. And right now I don't have any hobbies, because all my hobbies over the years have been, transformed into jobs. So it's when you have a job like that, when you have a job writing or making a movie or playing a musical instrument or drawing a picture or whatever, acting, whatever, it's like playing and, getting paid for playing. And, I'm my own boss most of the time. And I can get up when I want to most of the time and go to bed when I want to most of the time. And, today was a work day for me. I wrote a story. I wrote a comic book story for the Creeps. I wrote one yesterday, the day before that, so 3 in a row. And had fun doing it. They were fun stories. So I guess that's really what started me off. I grew up in Chicago. In Chicago, everybody I knew, everybody I was related to, their attitude was things like writing and acting and music and all that. They were hobbies. They weren't things that you really did to make a living. And when you get to be about 18 or 19 years old, you got to put all that childish stuff behind you and settle down and get a normal job and settle down and get married and have kids, by the numbers. And I didn't want to do those things. I wanted to spend the rest of my life having a good time, which luckily I've been able to do pretty much.
Wow, that's something. You say you grew up in Chicago, and you, from what I've seen on in your on your website and such, you used to love watching hosted horror program in Chicago, right?
Oh yeah, because we had the first wave of the Shock Theater, the Shock package of Universal movies. And we had a local show, a local channel there called WBKB, which was part of ABC, Channel 7. And we had, starting on December 7th, 1957, Shock Theater premiered. And we had a horror host there called Marvin. And Marvin was played by a vaudevillian named Terry Bennett. He was an actor, a singer, a puppeteer, a ventriloquist, a great ventriloquist. And he brought all those talents to the Marvin character. And Marvin was kind of a combination of Peter Lorre and a beatnik. He didn't wear any fright makeup. Most horror hosts kind of look the same. They all have, a white face, black circles under the eye, a fright wig, and a top hat.
Right.
And he didn't have any of that. All he had was he wore a black turtleneck sweater, a black sport jacket over that, and a pair of glasses. And in the earlier shows, he had these magnifying glasses that made his eyes really enormous. And then I guess they were just kind of too hard to see, so you couldn't see through them really. And probably hard on his eyes, and he switched to sunglasses or shades, as we called them back then. And that was Marvin. And he was very, very popular. The show was so popular that after a while, they added an extra half hour to it, which was called Shockdale Party, which got its own listing in the TV Guide. And he would bring in he had a band called the Deadbeats, and they were an excellent band. They were kind of an ABC house band. And he brought his wife in on the show. She would play a character called Deer, whose face you never saw. Then he brought in a Frankenstein monster called Shorty. And he also brought in a hunchback character called Orville. These are all local Chicago TV personalities. And it was really like, the Shockdale Party was really like a beatnik coffee house. They would, monster horror-oriented poetry, and the songs were all kind of geared to monsters and that sort of thing. And it was a wonderful show. It was very, very popular. It went through 1958, so it lasted almost 2 years.
Oh, okay. Now, I know you're a big horror movie fan. You love monsters and Frankenstein, and you used to write for monster magazines. And
my professional writing career began writing for a magazine called Modern Monsters. That was in 1966. And I ended up editing the magazine. I never got full credit. The publisher took credit, but to me it was a big deal just writing for a monster magazine, and that's where it started.
Where was that at? Where?
Hello?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, where?
I started losing it. I'm sorry.
Where was that at that you wrote for that magazine?
There was a magazine in Hollywood. I moved to California in 1964, and I was back in Chicago on a vacation. Because my family was in Chicago, and at that time I wasn't even sure I was going to stay in California, so I was going back a lot, going back for Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter, and the holidays and things. And a magazine came out called Modern Monsters while I was in Chicago, and I was reading it one day. When I picked it up, I went home. I was reading it, and I said, "This isn't very good. I can do better than this." And then I looked at the address on the contents page, and the address was in Beverly Hills. And when I got back to California, I looked up that name of that posting company in the phone book, and they had a telephone number. So I just called them up. I said, "I think I can do some writing for your magazine." And then the person who was editing and who was doing most of the writing left the magazine, and there was a vacancy for me. And one of the things I've always done in my life, and I still do, whenever there's an opportunity, I go for it. Because they say opportunities are never lost, they're just passed on to someone else. Well, I wasn't going to let that get passed on to someone else. I called them up, I had a meeting with the publisher, and, that was it. And that's how I began my writing career, by sitting there in Chicago reading a monster magazine I picked off the newsstand.
Wow, I love that saying you just said. Opportunities are never lost; or just passed on to someone else. That's very true.
This happened so many times in my professional career, not just in writing, but in acting, music. I mean, you name it. There's always been somebody who said, "Hey," come up to me and said, "Hey, look at this gig. They're looking for somebody for this or that. I don't think I'm going to try that. I don't think that's going to be any good. I don't think I'm going to get it. Why don't you try it?" And I tried it, and I would get it. And then they would be angry at me for the rest of their lives for stealing their job away, which wasn't the case at all.
They needed to seize the moment, and you did.
Yeah.
Well, you used to make movies when you were a kid, right?
Well, yeah. I started when I was 9 years old.
Oh wow! What was your first movie? Do you remember?
I sure do. It was made. I was 9 years old. It was called Diplodocus at Large. Diplodocus is a kind of dinosaur, and I had just seen The Beast in 20,000 Fathoms in a drive-in when it first came out, the Ray Harryhausen movie, about a big dinosaur that attacks New York City. And I wanted to be able to show that movie in my house anytime I wanted to. Well, in those days, we didn't have VHS machines or DVD players or Blu-rays or anything like that. And none of the companies that were putting out movies for home use, like Castle Films, none of them were doing horror films or science fiction movies. It was all just, like newsreels and westerns and cartoons and, jungle adventures, that sort of thing. So I decided the only way I'm going to be able to do that was to make it myself. So I got a couple kids together. My mother had a 16-millimeter movie camera. I saved up until I could afford the $3.50 it cost to buy a roll of black and white movie film that lasted 3.5 minutes when you ran it. And I had a train layout, a model train layout, and I had some plastic buildings and some Marx playset buildings. So I made a little village in a little town in the back of my yard on the lawn. And then for the dinosaur, I used an Ollie the Dragon hand puppet that was made out of a sock that my aunt gave me for a Christmas present one year, and that became the special effects, and that's what started the whole thing off. I started off not wanting to make movies. I started out wanting to show them, and one thing kind of led to another, and here we are today.
Wow, that is something. And then you went from that to you started on comics before you did live action TV, correct?
Well, it's a strange progression of what my professional career was. I started out writing the Monster Magazine articles, and around the same time, my musical career started. Again, it was one of those things somebody passed on to me, and I took it and I went with it. Mm-hmm. So for a number of years, I was a bass guitar player in various rock and roll bands in California, one of which was produced by Mike Nesmith, who was one of the Monkees. And when that broke up, I needed another way of income, and I was still writing the Monster Magazine, but I wrote a couple of books. I wrote a book on vampires, I wrote a book on dinosaurs, just things I was interested in. And my comic career started in the late 60s, a little bit after that, when Jim Warren, who was publishing Creepy and Airy, was looking for new writers, and he was, and Forey Ackerman, who was my agent at the time, told me about this, and so I wrote a couple stories for Creepy and Airy, and then Vampirella came up. They needed a writer for Vampirella, and I wrote almost the entire first issue of Vampirella. That kind of got me into Marvel and DC and Gold Key Comics, all the other, Charlton, Red Circle, all the other companies. And when I had like a disaster that all my Gold Key titles got canceled around the same time that a new editor came in at Marvel. So most of us writers and artists who were living on the West Coast were not, the favorites of this new editor. We got canned. We had to find a new source of income. So we were out there in the animation business, was just around the corner, Hanna-Barbera and Filmation and Disney and all these companies. Mm-hmm. So we all went into animation. And because comic books taught us how to think visually, animation was real easy. And when that kind of folded, because of what nobody wants to admit exists out here, which is age once you reach a certain age, which is not too high, you're pretty much out of the business. And that led to a few opportunities that came my way with directing a couple music videos and documentaries, and that led to directing live-action feature-length films. So it's all like, you know, you can almost, there's a paper trail that you can see what led to what. And one thing influenced the other thing. You know, I learned how to think visually by writing comic books. I learned how to direct movies by writing animation. I mean, it's just, you know, it's all there.
One of our viewers, Tom Paisley, he says, nice Bolex in the picture. Is that camera he's holding in the photo the same one he made those early movies with?
No, I had a series of cameras. We originally had a camera that and this kind of was started off, but my father somebody owed my father some money back in the late 1930s, and he couldn't pay him back. So he gave him a 16mm home movie camera, you know, as sort of payoff. That led to my mother, when she started dating my father, trying to figure out a Christmas present for him when they were just starting to date. And my mother was working in a building where either upstairs or downstairs was a company that sold merchandise, and she could get things at a discount there. So she bought him my father was given a movie projector. So my mother bought him a camera at a discount. And so we always had movies in our house. We had a screen, and we would have movie nights. We would just, you know, movies of the family, and, you know, events we went to, that kind of thing. And that was the camera I originally shot my early movies with. But something went wrong with that camera, and we got a new one. So I had several movie cameras along the way. And then around 1961, I had when I was 17 years old, I took a full-time job working in the summer for a company that made greeting cards and wrapping paper and that kind of thing. And I saved up, you know, half the summer to buy this Bell & Howell 70 camera, which was like a newsreel camera. That camera was my pride and joy. I mean, I loved that camera almost more than anything. And I was making a movie back in the 60s, and the camera was in a friend's truck of his car. That car was stolen, and the camera was stolen along with the car.
Oh, no.
So the insurance company paid for a Bolex camera, which is the one you see on my Facebook page.
Oh.
And I made my last couple of movies, I would say my last 1.5 movies, because one of them, half of them was shot on this Bell & Howell. So the last 1.5 movies I made with the Bolex camera, but I still love the Bell & Howell more than the Bolex. It was a sturdier, it was a real workhorse camera. Of course, now you don't shoot on film anymore. We shot the last couple of movies on what they call the red camera, and it looks just like film. And you put a card in there, you know, a computer chip or something. I don't understand those things. And you can see the movie as you're shooting it, and right after you're shooting it. You don't have to wait for it to come back from a lab or a camera shop. It's right then and there. And if you have to make a correction, you can make it right then and there. And when you take it to a movie theater, you don't have these heavy cans of 35mm film along with you. You just show the disc or whatever it is, and you can't even tell it's not film anymore. I mean, it really gets great results.
Well, speaking of that, I know that you just made, very recently, Tales of Frankenstein. I know you're a big Frankenstein monster fan, and you're a big monster movie fan in general. I'd like to show the trailer to our viewers, and then chat about that for a few minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And here we go with the trailer.
200 years ago, a legend was born, written by a teenaged girl. It is the one story that has constantly horrified the world, with one name: Frankenstein. Now, 4 tales of terror emerge from the past in an anthology film unlike any other. Tales of Frankenstein.
The great death is the plague that rots the flesh.
Vincent is an idiot. What with all his precious jewels, everyone in this town is an idiot.
The name
is Mo Gambo, sir.
You're going to rob graves?
What are you doing?
We come. We are going to rob graves. You look like you've seen a ghost.
No ghost. Frankenstein.
Very hard to believe. We're not living in 19th century Transylvania.
Tales of Frankenstein.
And we are back. That looked like like Tom says on here, I bet that was a blast to make. It looks like it was a lot of fun. It looks like it was a lot of work.
It was both, and well, to me, work is fun. I mean, I'm a kind of a workaholic, but yeah, it was a pleasure making that movie. It was. I never had so much fun making movies as I did on this one. I had great people to work with, great people on the crew, really fun actors, and it was a pleasure.
How long did it take to make that?
Well, actually, we haven't made over a period of 3 years, and the reason that's a long time. One is I knew that in 2018, the 200th anniversary of Mary Shelley's novel, Frankenstein, was going to come out. And I knew a lot of people were going to be doing Frankenstein films and other related things, books, or whatever. And so I wanted to do two things. I wanted to, first of all, make it as a tribute to Mary Shelley, and also capitalize on that, I saw money to be made. So I knew that 3 years in advance. I mean, it dawned on me 3 years in advance. And I said, well, we can take our time and do this, because I have to come up with the money, and that's the toughest part about making movies. Making movies is, comparatively easy compared to raising the money to make the movie. And so I said, this will give us a lot more free time to get the money together, for me to get the money together. And also, we don't have to rush. So, the movie, it has 4 stories in it. It's an anthology. So I said, we'll just shoot one part at a time. So each part took approximately 4 days. The first one took 3 days, plus and we included the wraparound, the shot, all the footage of the Frankenstein monster finding the painting and reacting to the painting and all that. So the whole, if you just add those shooting days together, it was just a 15-day shoot. But then, since I was relying on people to, work for not a whole lot of money as favor to me, they took their time. I mean, they would get other jobs, more lucrative jobs, during the time they were working on my movie. But we did it. We pulled it off. And the last year, 2018, was almost all spent in post-production, editing, music, special effects, the few CGI effects we have in there, that sort of thing, and sound design. And we did it. We had a premiere on the 24th of October, 2018, so we got it out right before Halloween. I was thinking of it as a Halloween movie, which it is. I mean, it's kind of an old-fashioned monster movie. And we did it. We pulled it off.
This won the 2018 Rondo Award for Best Independent Film, correct?
Correct. Yeah. That was a surprise to me, but we won it. Yeah.
Wow. One of our, let me put that picture up. One of our viewers said, Dr. Ed, he wants to know who did the makeup.
The makeup, the monster makeup was done by John Goodwin, who was not only a good friend, he's also an Emmy Award-winning makeup artist. He used to work on the one of the one or more of the CSI shows. So he did a lot of that sort of thing, and he was great. And he was. I was so fortunate to get John on this movie, and he could come up with anything. Whatever he wanted, he could come up with. And that Frankenstein monster at the end, it had to be, because there was also a little. If you watch the movie, there's a little atomic energy involved in there. And I wanted to look like that segment is 1957. So I wanted the monster to look kind of like a throwback to Hammer Films, Teenage Frankenstein, all those atomic energy monster films that were being made at the time. And he did it. He surprised me. He got on the set and was ready to shoot, and suddenly those electrodes lit up. And I said, I didn't expect that. How did you do that? And it was all done live. It wasn't a CGI effect. Right. And that was a nice surprise. And so he was thinking about it too. And so I was really lucky to get John.
Wow, that's a good question. Dr. Ed says, congratulations on the Rondo. He says makeup looked awesome. That was a neat idea to give him that classic Frankenstein look. I know a lot of times you see some variations have a much different looking monster. I like that classic look.
Yeah, well, the trick was to have it kind of suggest the classic monster without infringing on anybody's copyrights or trademarks, So we had to make sure that it was different enough that it would be okay. That I wouldn't have any copyright or lawsuit problems.
Right.
So, but you're right. I'm so tired of. I'll tell you, I'm tired of Frankenstein movies that are nothing but CGI effects. They look like you're watching a high-tech cartoon.
Right.
And whenever they start calling the monster the creature or the being or something, then I know I'm in trouble. I'm not going to like the movie so much. We call our monster a Frankenstein monster. That's what it is, and that's what we call it.
Right.
I've stuck to that.
Well, that's about as old school as you can get. I'm anxious to see that, and for our viewers, how can you get a copy? How can they get a copy of that? And how can they find out more about you and read more about you?
Well, okay. Well, first of all, where they can get a copy, me slipping into my mercenary mode here, you can get it on DVD or Blu-ray. And you can get it from all the regular sources, like Amazon,
okay,
Barnes & Noble, and Best Buy, and all that. But you can also downstream it. It's not on Netflix, but there's all kinds of. See, I'm not a downstream guy, so I don't really understand all that. But if anybody's into that and they know how to download it, they can do that, including from Amazon. So that's how you can get it. If you want to know more about me. Other than reading the National Enquirer or something, I have a website called DonaldFGlut.com. There's more on that about me than you'll ever want to know, and also my production company has a website, which is PecosBorn.com. And my production company, my new production company, is Pecosborn Production, and it's called that because I was born in Pecos, Texas, and that's where that comes from. But the two of those, I got a couple other websites too that doesn't have a whole lot about me on there. But those two, they'll tell you more than you'll ever want to know about me.
Okay, great. DonaldFGlut.com. So I have that up on screen right now for our viewers, and you may be surprised to know this, but we're actually at the bottom half of the hour at 8:30. So this went so amazingly quick. The notes I have, I just got to about 3 or 4 of them. I had a whole list of them. I would love to have you on again, hopefully sometime very soon. I could just sit and talk old monsters all day long. I'm going to have to make this show an hour episode in the future. Maybe I'll consider that. But it was so interesting talking to you. I thank you so much for being my guest tonight. I've been wanting for a while to get you on the show, so thank you.
I enjoyed it very much, so I appreciate you having me on. I'm honored. It was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you very much. Well, Donald, I'll let you go and enjoy more of that Burbank, California weather, and I hope you have a good night.
Okay, you too.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, folks, there it is. I wish you could see the notes that I have here. There's so much to talk about with Donald Glut. You go to his website, just look around. If you like the old monster movies, if you have any interest in the horror, the science fiction, the old school stuff, oh my gosh, the old monster magazines, comic books, cartoons, live action TV, shows from the 70s in the early days. I encourage you to go look at his website. There's so much to talk to him. I have to have him back on the show because I only touched like maybe 2 or 3 things that I really wanted to talk about. So, but thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll definitely have Donald back on again. And thank you. Have a good night. Have a good chiller night. We'll see you next week.
How many times do I have to tell you, just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad?
Oh, jeez.